We're loaded up for another huge week of Texas high school football in week 3. These are the picks. Welcome into the Picks, your guide to the Texas high school football weekend. My name is Greg Tepper of Dave Campbell's Texas Football and TexasFootball.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're now into the third week of the Texas high school football season, and one thing I want to stress is that it's okay to say, I don't know. It really is. We're only 2 weeks in. We only have 2 weeks of data for these teams, and sometimes they kind of run counter to one another, right? Maybe a team looks great in week 1 and then lays an egg in week 2, or it looks really good in both weeks, but you don't know about their opponents. It's okay to wait for more data, but the good thing is this week we will get some major information on some contenders statewide. It's going to be a fun week of games. We start in Houston. 7 o'clock Friday night at Planet Ford Stadium in Spring. It is a Class 6A state-ranked clash as the Spring Westfield Mustangs welcome in the Galena Park North Shore Mustangs. What are the keys to this matchup? Key number 1, Westfield's hot and cold offense. So let's go back to week 1 for Westfield. Better times because the offense was cruising. 444 yards of total offense against Cy Park. Looked every bit the part of a state championship contender. Running back Taji Atkins was fantastic. Quarterback Miles Dent looked like in complete command of the offense. Nothing but good things. They ran for almost 15 yards a carry. Good times. Then last week happened against Fort Bend Hightower in a 14-9 loss to the Hurricanes, and the offense just couldn't get going. They had under 250 yards of total offense. If you take out a 60-yard run for Taji Atkins, they only averaged like 4 yards a carry. Suddenly, the offense had trouble moving the ball. So we have these two disparate data points, right, for Westfield. One time, they looked fantastic. Everything was working. They threw the ball effectively. The offensive line was pushing. Everything worked great. The other time, Hightower really bottled them up. So this offense is run hot and cold. What happens when a state-ranked team comes to town? Key number 2, Bailey's back. Let's talk about Caleb Bailey, the North Shore quarterback, because he is a real storyline for these Mustangs. You may remember him from setting the world on fire in Texas high school football last year up until he got injured. And his knee injury cost him the end of the regular season and the entire playoff run, which ended in a state championship loss to Duncanville. But he's back, and the first 2 weeks looks pretty darn good. Looks like he's really 100% and improved in many respects, especially as far as his accuracy is concerned. Now, make no mistake, this will be the biggest test he has had since he's returned from injury, because this Westfield defense is something serious. So, how does the superstar quarterback for North Shore look in his biggest test yet? And key number 3, the big fellas. Yeah, okay, the receivers and the quarterbacks, they're fun, right? But let's talk about the trenches, because when you talk about Westfield and North Shore, you should be talking about what happens up front, because that is part of their culture. They are determined to be the most physical team in the ballgame. What happens when they clash? And usually that is what determines who wins between Westfield and North Shore. Big-time matchups in this one. You got defensive end for Westfield, Bryson Balka, going up against Jacoby Isom and that offensive line for North Shore. On the other side, you've got this really physical front that's starting to come along for North Shore, taking on Raekwon Bell and this really strong Westfield offensive line. This looks like a real heavyweight matchup, to borrow a phrase, between two big fronts. What happens in the trenches with these two titans? Who am I picking? I'm going with North Shore. I think I just trust the Mustangs, the North Shore Mustangs that is, their offense to be more consistent in this game, because over the past couple of weeks, what we've seen is this North Shore offense go out there and take care of business. Caleb Bailey's been great. They've run the ball well. Their offensive line's got to push. Their receiver core has started to grow. Willie Gaston, in his time as offensive coordinator, now as head coach, has built this into a machine, and the machine looks like it's rolling at peak capacity right now. Westfield is going to be the best defense that North Shore has faced this year by a pretty considerable margin in this game. But I'm just a little bit spooked about what happened last week against Hightower offensively. I just wonder if something was figured out about how you can slow down this rushing attack for Westfield, because that's where it all starts. They need to run the ball with Taji Atkins and take a little bit of pressure off this junior quarterback Dent in order to give them an opportunity. The balance has got to be there for Westfield, and I think that North Shore is going to be able to make them a little bit more one-dimensional. This game is going to be a street fight. These are two big physical teams, but I think North Shore gets the win. Give me the Mustangs. How about some Thursday night action? 7 o'clock Thursday night at Crusader Stadium on the campus of Mary Hardin Baylor in Belton. It is a 4A versus 3A state-ranked clash as the Wimberley Texans take on the Brock Eagles. And two teams that played for a state championship last year came up a little bit short, hoping to get back to AT&T Stadium. And Brock's brutal non-district schedule continues with Wimberley. Cody Stover, their quarterback, has been on fire to start the season. 11 touchdowns in their first two games. They have been rolling, have the Texans. Now they take on a Brock team that is 1-1. They lost a heartbreaker to Pleasant Grove in the opener, got some revenge on Wichita Falls Hershey last week. The defense has been fantastic. Linebacker Cooper Massey has been great. But what happens when the offense gets pushed? Because the offense fits and starts so far with running back Brett Tudor. They need to have that balance offensively and especially be able to run the ball to get past this Wimberley team. I think there's going to be a low-scoring slugfest with both defenses taking center stage, but I think Wimberley comes up with a couple extra plays, giving the Texans. Let's go to the big country. 7 o'clock Friday night at Shotwell Stadium in Abilene. It is a state-ranked clash between the Abilene Eagles and the Midland Legacy Rebels. Abilene's looked fantastic through their first 2 weeks. Remember, they knocked off Odessa Permian in week 1 and then won the Crosstown Showdown last week against Abilene Cooper. Quarterback Dylan Slack has been great. I'm a big fan of this running back Antoine Rayshaw. I think they have a great balanced attack, and their defense has come to play as well. What happens when they punch up against Midland Legacy? Because this team is serious business. You know, for all we talk about quarterback Marcos Davila, and he's a star, make no mistake, I think the real star of the show so far for Legacy has been the running game. Tommy Johnson III is the tip of the spear for what is a balanced and multi-headed running attack for the Rebels, and that is going to be really difficult for Abilene to slow down. The real matchup in this one is, can the front seven for Abilene find a way to match up and slow down the running game for Midland Legacy? I think this game is close, but I think home field advantage matters here, and I think I'm believing in the Eagles. Give me Abilene. And let's go out east. 7 o'clock Friday night at Eakin Stadium in Timpson. It is a state-ranked matchup of 3A versus 2A as the Dangerfield Tigers visit the Timpson Bears. And we are getting to the fireworks factory here because these two teams can hit some home runs. You want to talk about explosive offenses. This is going to be a lot of fun to watch. Quarterback Chase Johnson leads the way for this Dangerfield attack, which has looked fantastic. Of course, they've got a big-time playmaker in Aaron Bubba Hampton, who is going to be one of the most dynamic players on the field. Timpson, 2-0, rolling offensively, which is amazing considering they've been without Mr. Texas football, Terry Bussey. Instead, it's been J.J. Garner, the running back turned quarterback, who's been leading the way. Make no mistake, they lean on Vosky Howard as well. They are much more than just Terry Bussey, and they have been proving it through their first 2 weeks. I think this is going to be a firefight. Two teams going back and forth, hitting home runs. It's going to come down to 1 or 2 stops. And in the end, I think Timpson gets it done at home. Give me the Bears. But those are far from the only big games in week 3 of the Texas high school football season. Let's get to the lightning round. I think Hooks keeps it rolling with a win over Winsboro. Really interesting private school versus public school matchup here. I like Dallas Christian in a close one over Toller. And give me North Crowley over Lovejoy. I like Sonora over El Dorado. DeKalb gets by Jefferson, and a slugfest on the Coastal Bend. I like Edna over Refugio. Bridgeland stays hot with a win over Alvin Shadow Creek. Canyon West Plains beats rival Canyon, and Denton Geyer bounces back with a win over Lancaster. Give me Bushland over Childress. Holland in a close one over Granger, and Jim Ned takes down Wall. I'm going with Graham over Glen Rose. Give me Harmony to take down Beckville, and Cuero sneaks by Yoakum. Critical district matchup in Houston. I like Katy to get by Katy Tompkins. Give me Stephenville to beat Decatur. And how about a matchup of state champions? I like DeSoto over South Oak Cliff. I like Columbus over Rice Consolidated. Liberty Hill and Hutto played an 162-point game last week. I don't think it's that crazy, but I do think Georgetown gets by Liberty Hill. And give me Albany over Seymour. Centerville stays hot with a win over Teague. Give me Corpus Christi Calallen over Corpus Christi Flower Bluff. And staying on the coast, I like Port Lavaca Calhoun over Sinton. I like Mason over Ozona. Prosper stays hot with a win over Rockwall, and a huge game in Frisco ISD. I like Frisco Lone Star over Frisco Reedy. I'm going with El Paso Pebble Hills over El Paso Eastwood, and now 4 teams with hyphens in their names. I like Port Neches Groves to beat West Orange Stark, and I like Hampshire Finette to beat Cold Spring Oakhurst. Got it? Humble Summer Creek beats Klein Collins. Stratford stays hot with a win over Groover, and I like Jourdanton over Pleasanton. I like Amarillo Tascosa over Odessa Permian. Franklin gets a win over Diboll, and a really interesting matchup of 2-0 teams. I think A&M Consolidated wins a close one over Lufkin. I'm going with San Benito over McAllen Memorial. San Antonio Brennan beats San Antonio Harlan, and a real underrated matchup. I like Wallace Brazos over Louise. I'm going with Farwell over Sundown. Give me College Station over Temple. And it's the worst bowl. I like New Braunfels over New Braunfels Canyon. Pottsboro takes down Whitesboro. And in our six-man game of the week, I like Spring Lake Earth over Happy. And those are the picks. What am I wrong about? Which games did I leave out? Leave comments down below. Don't forget that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter at DCTF. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Dave Campbell's. Follow us on Instagram, instagram.com/Dave Campbell's. And of course, see us at texasfootball.com. Thanks for watching. Enjoy week 3 of the Texas high school football season. We'll see ya.